Recording in progress.
Okay. Escape or double click to full.
Good evening, everyone, members of the audience here at City Hall, members of the audience that are watching in. This is a very, very special night in many, many ways, and I thank you all for being here. And on that note, I would like to call to order the meeting of the City Council Indio Water Authority. This is December 5th, and it is 3 minutes after 5 p.m. May I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Miller.
Present.
Councilmember Ramos Ami.
Present.
Councilmember Ortiz.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Furman.
Present.
And Mayor Holmes.
Present. Next item, the invocation. Will those that would like to rise, please stand for the invocation. Yes, you do.
Thank you so much. Want to congratulate Wayman and Oscar, and want to let you know as a church, we're committed to praying for you guys as the next leaders and moving our city into a greater place of prosperity and happiness. And so let's pray. God, thank you for this incredible team. Lord, that you have given us the privilege and them the privilege to lead our great city into the greatness in which it is destined to be. And so, God, I thank you for all of the council members. I ask that you would give them wisdom, and Lord, you would give them insight. But more importantly, in a time like this, God, you would give us unity. And so, God, I thank you for the blessings upon Wayman and the future of Indio and Oscar as the mayor pro tem in the future. We pray a special blessing over them and their families, and Lord, just over their lives. And so we ask that you would bless this session in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Miller, would you please lead us?
Please put your hand over your heart. Pay homage to the flag of our country. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Please be seated. Okay, item number 4, City Attorney Report on Closed Session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The city council met in closed sessions for the item listed therein, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, item number 5. Rotation of the mayor and mayor pro tem. And what an incredible and fabulous year it has been. Mayor pro tem, are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. And what is the process at this point that you would like to follow?
So at this time, if both of you would like to come down to the floor, or you can stand at the on the dais, and I can give you the gavel so that you can provide Mayor Pro Tem, if you can provide the gavel to Mayor Holmes.
Go down this
Come
way.
on
Go down
down.
there.
Wow. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. And I want to take this opportunity to say a couple of words about our mayor and also open it up for our other council members to give some comments about the mayor. First and foremost, I have to thank you. You have been a great help to me the last 3 years. You set the bar. You've been here for a while, and we want to see your efforts through. And I usually don't make promises, but I promise everything that we have voted on, every vision that we have dreamed, we're going to see it through. So I want to present to you this gavel, but now I want to open it up for our other council members to have a moment. So I'd like to start with Councilmember Ortiz, if you'd like to say a couple of comments about our mayor.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mayor Holmes, for your service to our community. I know it takes a lot of dedication to do this job, especially on top of managing your small business. And I know you do it because you care so much about our community. So thank you so much for your service as our mayor for this past year.
Councilmember Miller.
Thank you. Elaine, what can I say? It's been another amazing year. You've done outstanding work besides working on your small business. Excuse me. You're continuing to lead our city. You love our city so much, and we have a great staff, and you help lead this council to new heights in so many ways. And we thank you for your third term as mayor and look forward to many more years of working with you. And I just love you to death and thank you for all you do.
Councilmember Amit.
Mayor Holmes, thank you for another wonderful year. I think I said it the first time you became mayor that I was just going to put my seatbelt on and enjoy the ride. Well, this time I got to put my seatbelt ride and I got to sit on your coattails because I didn't really have to do a whole lot of moving. You just kept the city moving at such a pace to make sure that our new city staff, our new city manager, our new council members, everyone was focused on our vision and the direction that the city was going in. So I want to thank you for that and for being a great role model to our mayor pro tem. I really admired him this last meeting. I said that to you earlier. He has really taken to heart each and every step that you have taught him. And I believe he's going to be a great mayor because of your efforts. So thank you very much for your service to the city of Indio and to the residents.
Thank you. And before I present this, I'll read it off. It says, in recognition of your employee leadership, selfless dedication, and countless contributions rendered as mayor of the city of Indio, City Council and staff, Indio, California, December 1st, 2021. Elaine Holmes, Mayor, 2020-2021. Round of applause, please.
I'd just like to take a quick moment. I love the city and I love representing all of the residents and businesses. But at the end of the day, I couldn't do it without a great council and without staff. Staff has worked so hard this year and every year, but we have such a great staff. I have great council people and Mayor, you are in for an e-ticket ride. Your love of this city, your passion, your desire to take it to the next level, I have no doubt. And I look forward to being a part of your council as you take us to the next level. I wish you well, and I am here for you.
Thank you.
And then you guys can go up to the podium and just exchange. Okay, now Mayor Holmes, if you want to pass down the gavel to the new mayor, and maybe someone will take pictures of the transition.
Absolutely.
Sure, there'll be a few
Absolutely.
Just a few. Okay. So we have any comments?
Yeah. Next, I want to move to introduce some folks who are here. There's a lot of folks here, and then we appreciate it. We have some other elected officials here that I'd like to just introduce. First and foremost, we have Councilmember Jan Pye from Desert Hot Springs here. We have Mr. John Pena, council member from the city of La Quinta. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome our congressman to the podium for a few words. Thank you, Congressman Raul Ruiz, for being here.
What an exciting day. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor. Mayor. That's awesome that we can call you that. I'm Congressman Dr. Raul Ruiz. I serve you as the representative of California's 36th Congressional District, the best district in the country. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be here on such a historic day for Indio, and so glad to see so many familiar faces and friends. We welcome and celebrate Indio's newest mayor and the first African-American mayor of Indio, my friend, Furman. Over the years, it has been a privilege to work together with Mayor Furman in his previous role as a city council member and up until most recently, Mayor Pro Tem. I could not be more thrilled to see him take on this new role and continue our shared work to deliver for the great people of Indio. Mayor Furman is an effective, humble, and passionate public servant who has shown the courage and innovative thinking necessary to guide our communities through difficult times. And as we have battled the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic together, he has provided steady leadership with the Coachella Valley Association of Governments and the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. And as we have sought to strengthen relationships with law enforcement, Mayor Furman has worked to bring about unity, change, and justice through productive roundtable discussions with local leaders and law enforcement. You see, Mayor Furman understands the needs of our communities because he is from our communities. He was born and raised in Indio. He's a graduate of Indio High School and College of the Desert. Now, you all know the eras when I was in school, we were right. But I'm a congressman now, so I represent everybody. And I did wear your jersey. I did wear your jersey in the congressional baseball game. All right, with pride, too. He also graduated from COD, College of the Desert, and he's a shining role model for the youth, who he has mentored many throughout the years. From spearheading outreach initiatives to helping forge academic pipeline programs, Mayor Furman has uplifted many over the course of his career in public service. And I have no doubt that that as he begins this new chapter as mayor of Indio, he will continue to inspire, break down barriers, and enact positive change for many years to come. So, Mayor Furman, congratulations for being mayor and all that it represents for our city, our valley, and all of our communities. Today is a testament to your dedication to public service and your visionary leadership. And I am so proud to have such an extraordinary trailblazer and friend to lead the city of Indio. And I look forward to continuing to work closely together along with Mayor Pro Tem Oscar Ortiz and Council members Lupe Ramos Ameth, Glenn Miller, and now Elaine Holmes. But before I go, I'd also like to extend my deepest gratitude to the previous mayor, Elaine Holmes, who will continue her dedicated service and devotion, and as you heard, her love for the people of Indio as a councilwoman. So once again, congratulations to you, Mayor, to your family, to your friends, and to the community of Indio for such an outstanding mayor. Thank you very much. And I have a certificate of recognition for you. Let's take this up.
Thank you, Congressman. It's greatly appreciated. The Congressman was very supportive from day one when I announced I was going to run for council. And without him and some of our other local leaders and our community, I wouldn't be here. So thank you. Now I'd like to call up a mentor, now a partner as I'm working with the city, and one of my pastors, Pastor McPeters, for a couple of words.
Mayor, thank you so much for this opportunity. To our previous mayor, Mrs. Elaine Holmes, thank you so much for your dedicated service to our city over the years. To all of our council, men and women. I don't even know what to even say. I'm really elated. I'm extremely happy and excited over Mr. Furman becoming our first African-American mayor. And I'm just looking forward to longevity of work and continuing making the city a city for all people, regardless of race, creed, economic privilege. And I'm looking forward to working with you on many projects here in the city as well as the council. And I also want to do a shout out to our police chief. And I want to let you know that I'm praying for you and your family, and I support you and looking forward to you continued being our chief for many years to come. Thank you so much, Mayor, for this opportunity, and congratulations.
Thank you. I'd just like to call up one more person, which I refer to as my brother and lifelong friend, Mr. Jeffrey Morris.
What an honor. Such an emotional moment for every kid that came from Indio, California, that we always thought we were looked over because we grew up in the jail J's, because we grew up in the ghetto, the Golden Triangles, the Brookhurst apartments, the Algiers on Indio Boulevard. And to have somebody just like us to represent our great community, to push us forward to another level, is a great moment for the city of Indio. And all of us, we stand with you, Wayman. We stand with the community. We stand with you, Chief. We stand with you, Brian. We stand with the community to push this forward. We've been waiting. We've been looking. Just like us, that can lead us in the way that we should go. However, we do know that you cannot do it alone. Babe Ruth had this great saying. He said, the way a team plays as a whole determines its success. You may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime. It's going to take every council member. It's going to take the city. It's going to take the chief. It's going to take the city manager. It's going to take the fire department. It's going to take the preschool teacher. It's going to take the first grade teacher, the high school teacher, all the admin, the people that's working the water district and the gas, all of us as a community to get it to where we want to go. I want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. We're all so proud of you. And I also wanted to tell you that your mom is looking down on you. She's so proud of you. This is what I never want you to forget. She's seen the greatness before we all did. She always seen that in you, and we all witness and this come to pass. So all our prayers will continue to be towards you in the city of Indio. We have faith and we believe in you, and anything that you need from us as a community, we're willing to get it done. Thank you.
I'm gonna take my mask off. Well, thank you for the great words. I mean, I'm never lost for words, but wow, you know, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family to see everyone here. It means a lot to our council. You know, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that folks don't see. There's a lot of nights that we stay awake and worry about the homeless person on the corner or what kind of policy we could pass to help folks out. So it means a lot to all of us. I could sit here all day and call people up to the podium. There's a lot of folks who traveled. I see some of my friends and family from San Diego. You know, it's a lot of people here, but what I want to do first, before I start thanking folks, I want to ask you to give a round of applause to my family who's sitting in the front. Marjorie's home with my kids when I'm out serving the community. Sometimes I get up 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep because I'm worried about something going on. And I have to get in my car and go drive around and check on folks or check on a fire or a car accident, because that's the way I operate. Indio is a lace your boots up and get to work city. And that's how our people are. So it's a sacrifice for my family for me to be in this role. The last 3 years they've known. Marjorie and I just joked this morning about now you belong to the community. Then we laughed and we said, well, you've been part of the community for a long time. We just borrowed you. So thank you to my family. Paris is in the front. Everybody say hi to Paris. And, you know, I'm just very appreciative. I'm blessed to be in the situation I am. And when you look around this room, it's a lot of different people here. But what this represents is my village. I was born and raised here in Indio, and there's a lot of folks in here, and I sat at a lot of your tables and had dinners. We've sat at work and had dinners. We started programs. We've been out feeding the homeless. We've done a lot of things together. And to see all of you here to join us for this occasion, a monumental occasion, it means so much to me. And I'm a reflection of my community, my council, but most importantly, my mother. And I know she's watching. Nonetheless, when we take pictures and we hug and we go about our ways, there's still a lot of work to do. Running a city it doesn't stop. It's ongoing. There's always change. There's always development. There's always issues. There's always infrastructure. And I give you my word, I'm going to work 120% for this city, like I already have been. I love the city of Indio. In a few years, when I retire, I'm going to be here in Indio because I love this city that much. We've come a long way. There's been a lot of progress. And like I had mentioned to Councilmember Holmes, I want to see it through, and I want to work continually with our staff, our council, our community, to make sure the goals that we have in front of us are met. So I'm a product of my village. I mean, it's amazing. I have Rudy Acosta here, who was my elementary school basketball coach. He's the uncle of my best friend, Ryan Flock. His son is one of my best friends. And I sat at his table. I watched him engaged with politics, and I watched him work for the city. I watched him work for the Parks and Recreation in Palm Desert and putting these sketches together when I was a young kid. And to be in this capacity in front of my coach, in front of my Uncle Charlie Nieto, in front of Marcus Pollard, Darnell Reed, you know, it means so much to me. So you know what? Just thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you. So city manager, I think we'll take a 5-minute recess. Sure. Okay. Get some water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Please send them to me. So we're going to call the meeting back to order at 5:45. And the next item on the agenda is a proclamation that we are going to present to Marine Corporal Salvador Luli, who is actually here. So we could call him and his family up to the front, and I'll come down and give him a proclamation. And I will ask the rest of the council members who are here to join me, since Councilmember Ortiz is virtual.
Picture down below.
Yeah. For my first meeting, this is such a great event and an honor to be here in your presence. I want you guys all know this is Mr. Salvador Luli, and we're going to present him with this proclamation. It says, whereas the city of Indio has immeasurable gratitude for Lance Corporal Salvador Luli and all the other men and women who risk their lives daily. The deadly attack outside of Kabul's airport on August 26, 2021, the city of Indio honors the courage and commitment of Marine Lance Corporal Luli and is forever grateful for his dedication and determination to protect his beloved country. Salvador was born and raised in the Coachella Valley, city of Indio. He graduated from La Quinta High School in 2019 and soon after enlisted into the United States Marine Corps, where he has been in active duty with the U.S. Marine Corps for the past 2 years. And now, therefore, I, Wayman Furman, Mayor of the City of Indio, along with the Indio City Council, do hereby express our deep and abiding respect for Lance Corporal Salvador Luli and his personal courage and bravery and service to our nation. Thank you. This is such an honor for our council, our city, to have you here back home safely with your family. And so I want to give my other council members an opportunity for a couple of words.
I can't express my gratitude to you and your family for risking your life for our country and our freedoms, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Proud to have you in the city of Indio and honored to have you here.
Absolutely. I'm so proud to have you here and so thankful that you and people like you really give everything, their heart, for those of us here. Thank you so, so much for your service. Thank you for everything you've given to our country.
I just want to say thank you for all the support from the community. It made me super proud to hear all the support coming from the city I was born in when I was in the hospital. And it just made me really proud to be from Indio. Thank you, guys.
Oh, I didn't know if you got it right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next one. Might as well do it. Yeah, we're already here, so. Is Hunter Lopez's family here? They're not here? Okay, we could still read it and we could present it to him and we'll get it to his family at a later date. We also have a proclamation for Mr. Hunter Lopez, is one of our fallen who paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to be here today. And so it is an honor to have this proclamation from our city and present it to his family at a later date. Proclamation reads, whereas today and every day, we hold our hearts, Corporal Lopez, as well as who answered the knock on the door, accepted the flag folded with the precision set that final farewell. Sorry, a little nervous with this one. This is deep. Final farewell and borne the absence of their fallen hero. The city of Indio in memorial will honor the life of our hometown hero, United States Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez, whose infectious smile and amazing personality left imprints on all of our lives. He touched throughout our city and beyond. Now, therefore, I, Wayman Furman, Mayor of the City of Indio, along with Indio City Council, do hereby express our deep, abiding respect for Corporal Hunter Lopez, and further express our sense of grief and loss upon his passing, and extend to his family and many friends our most sincere sympathy. Thank you. Sorry. And we have one more proclamation. It's for World Disability Day. It reads, whereas the City of Indio observes World Disability Day to promote leadership and participation of persons and disabilities towards inclusive, accessible, sustainable, post-COVID-19 world. And on this day, we celebrate how far we've come in protecting our rights to those who live with disabilities and recommit to shaping the future in which all members of the community can enjoy their full rights and freedoms. And now, therefore, I, Wayman Furman, Mayor of the City of Indio, along with Indio City Council, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2021 as World Disability Day and urge the residents of our community to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities and programs. Thank you. Wait, hold up.
Why don't we take the 2 minutes?
So we'll take the 2
Let's do
minutes.
the 2 minutes. It's next to me.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 9, appointments. 9.1 is reappoint Benjamin Gutrone to the Coachella Valley Mosquito and Vector Control CVMVCD Board. Do we need a motion for that, or?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that motion. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Holmes and a second by Councilmember Miller. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos Amit, she's on Zoom. Councilmember Ortiz,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz,
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes,
Aye.
and Mayor Furman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Gutron, on another time on the board. So we'll move on to 9.2, appointment for Imperial Irrigation District Energy Consumers Advisory Committee. And do we have some, no? Are we gonna, do I need a motion for that as well? Or are we just gonna recommend?
I'll jump in since no one is. So the letter in the packet provides that our esteemed council member Miller has been sitting on the seat, which expires December 2021. And the council can reappoint Mr. Miller or a different person. So I'll.
Motion to approve Councilmember Miller to ECAC.
Oscar's gonna have to second it.
I'll second that because I've sat in those before.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Holmes and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz. Lay the vote, please.
Councilmember Holmes,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos Amit, Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz,
Aye.
and Mayor Furman.
Aye. Motion passes. Councilmember Miller, that's yours.
Yeah.
All right.
We have 5 minutes. Why don't we go to city manager reports?
Okay. Now we're going to maneuver a little bit on the agenda because we have an item that we have to do at 6 o'clock. So we'll skip over to the city manager reports and information.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to remind the community of the great event that will be held in downtown Indio this weekend, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, rather, the Tamale Festival. So that's my report, sir, is just to invite folks to come down and enjoy.
Thank you, City Manager. We do have a couple of minutes, so we'll move on to item number 12, consent calendar. If any council members like to pull the item, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented, items 12.1 through 12.12.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Miller and a second by Councilmember Holmes. Can I get a vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos Amit,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz,
Aye.
and Mayor Furman.
Aye. Okay. The consent calendar passes. And so now we're actually going to move over to the report on city council, external and external boards. And we'll do up to 6 o'clock and then we'll move to that item. So we'll go ahead and
So
Councilmember
talk fast.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say. Okay, and I had a pretty light schedule, so there's a couple of things that I attended, one of which was the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, and of note, we made the largest acquisition of property, approximately 3,217 acres in the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountains Conservation Area as part of the Palm Hills conservation effort, as we try to continue to conserve very specific areas to keep our mountains and our trails free and accessible to the public. I was part of the pie giveaway at the senior center. Everybody knows I'm a huge fan of the senior center and all that they do for our senior population. It was really great to see everybody, and it's always nice to catch up with the seniors there, just to be able to give them pies and meet with them and talk with them and wish them well over the Thanksgiving holidays. We did our strategic planning meeting, one of several that we're in the process of working through to look at next steps for the city of Indio in terms of direction, in terms of roads, in terms of bridges, in terms of beautification, in terms of making the city of Indio a place for all of you to enjoy and to have that ongoing quality of life. Was that fast enough?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. I do not have a report, and so I'll move over to Councilmember Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. One of my commissions that was active was Sunline. We did today, talked about some new technology that we're having, the Center for Technology, which will be for hydrogen cell fuel. We'll start training individuals on how to work with buses and how the engines work and have mechanics in schools. It's the world-renowned Center for technology, and Sunline has been the head of technology for hydrogen cell buses for many years now. And so it's great to see that we are going to be the center to train other individuals on the new engines. And also it's still a very big shortage of drivers for buses. So if you do know anybody out there that's looking to possibly work for a great organization like Sunline, they are looking for people that need to drive the buses. They are in a slower amount, of time for head, which is the time it takes to get from one spot to another, because they just do not have the bus drivers to be able to put in buses to get people around. So it's taking a little bit longer. And then the last thing before we get into it is, I saw this, we have a $31 billion surplus in the state of California. And that money should go towards other things besides trying to look at what it is. We need to spend about $4 billion of it on the Salton Sea. We need to get our legislators here to be able to look at what we're doing. 15.5 billion of it should go back to the residents, and the other 11.5 billion, I believe, should go to the 482 cities. That would give us each about 2 we could use for affordable housing. So I think there's a way to look at that $31 billion and get it back into the community so we could start working towards goals of the whole residents of the state of California. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a 1-minute recess. And if folks want to go ahead and head out, they can head out, and then we'll start on the public hearing items in a short recess.
What about the I
Folks, we're going to go ahead and continue our meeting. The next item is item 14, public hearings. It's the second public hearing to receive input from the community regarding the redrawing of election district boundaries. This is a public hearing and we have to start right at 6 o'clock. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to introduce our consultant, Jeff Simonetti. Sorry about that. It's hard through the mask. This is our second public hearing on the redistricting of the districts that we have using the 2020 census data. Tonight, Jeff is going to just give a short presentation on the background of what the law requires us to do, but also will now reintroduce the data that we've been waiting for on the census. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to him. Thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Simonetti. I'm with the National Demographics Corporation. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening regarding the redistricting process. And do we have the presentation up? Yes. So this will be the second public hearing this evening, and we're going to be talking about the project deadlines, some of the key next steps in hearings, as well as the timeline that we have to meet. And as Roxanne was mentioning, we have the official 2020 data from the Census Bureau that are put into the existing districts. And so you can see what has changed over the last couple of years regarding both the population as well as the demographic profile. And that is going to be a key driver into what we'll be looking at for the next process here coming forward. So as you know, in the city of Indio, council members hold 4-year terms and the elections are staggered by district. So currently for the November 22 election, districts 2, 3, and 4 will be up, and districts 1 and 5 terms end in November of 2024. For the purposes of the redistricting, remember that the new district lines that will be drawn through this process will apply to not only the elections in 2022, but also in 2024 and thereafter. There's a specific process that we need to go through here regarding the hearings, as well as a very specific deadline that we have to meet to be able to get an approved map and get that to the Riverside County Registrar of Voters in time for the November election. There's 4 hearings that are required for this process, and we are currently in one of the 2 initial, what we call pre-draft map hearings. They're held, we had the first one on November 3rd, and this evening, December 1st, is the second one. These are held prior to the release of the draft maps. And this evening, as well as on the first one, we'll be talking about the education process and be seeking input from both the general public as well as the council on communities of interest within the district. We'll talk more specifically about the specific laws that are associated with that. We had 2 different sets of census data released. We talked about this the last time, where the Census Bureau has their official data set for the 2020 census that was released in mid-August. However, you'll see that we use what's called the California statewide database for the purposes of redistricting. And that you'll see here as we talk about the prisoner 20 redistricting data. For the purposes of California redistricting, the US Census counts prisoners physically within the prison, but for the purposes of population counts for particular cities and jurisdictions, California takes that prisoner data and matches them back to their last known address. So it's called zeroing out the prison population, and that's what the California statewide database we use. That was released in late September. Then we'll have 2 draft map hearings, which will be scheduled for January 19th and February 16th. Those are 2 public hearings that are basically to discuss and review the draft maps that are submitted, and also to discuss the election sequence. So there's a 2-step process here. Not only are we determining what the new district lines will be, but you also have the ability to say which elections will be held in 2022 and which elections will be held in 2024. We have a final map adoption hearing, which will be scheduled on March 2nd. And the final maps have to be posted at least 7 days prior to the adoption. So we have a little bit of lead time that we have to make sure that we get the final maps posted and ready to go before then. This entire process has to be complete by no later than April 17th, and the maps has to be submitted to the Riverside County Registrar of Voters by no later than that date to be able to qualify for the new districts for the November election. This is an important slide because this is the set of laws and goals that govern the process and gives you a reason as to why we need to go through the redistricting process here in 2021. There are 3 sets of laws and criteria that are associated with the redistricting process. The first one is on the left-hand side, and that is the federal laws you'll see in the red box on the left. And it specifically pertains to the Federal Voting Rights Act. It has 2 major components. We have to have a generally equal population, and you'll see here that this applies to you. There is a case law that states that we can have a no greater than 10% population deviation from, and that's determined from the difference in population between the largest district and the smallest district. You'll see in a moment here that with the way that your current districts are drawn with the 2020 census data in, you are just slightly above that 10%. which means it's necessitating you to go through the redistricting process. Second key component of the Federal Voting Rights Act also says that there can be no racial gerrymandering. In the middle, in the light blue box there, we have what's called the California criteria for cities. And that specifically pertains to AB 849, which is called the Fair Maps Act. It's some big long acronym that I can never remember what it stands for, but it's AB 849 that was passed in 2019. It sets out specific criteria for the cities, and these are, importantly to remember, are rank ordered criteria. So first, districts have to be geographically contiguous. When practicable, they have to have undivided neighborhoods and communities of interest, and we'll talk more specifics as to what a definition of community of interest is. But it specifically means a socioeconomic or geographic area that should be kept together for its effective purposes of its effective and fair representation. The districts have to have easily identifiable boundaries, so things like major streets, rivers, those types of things. And they have to be compact. And when we say compact, it means that you do not bypass one group of people to get to a more distant group of people. And as a universal prohibition, districts shall not favor or discriminate against a political party. Finally, on the right-hand side, we have in the dark blue box, what we call other traditional redistricting principles. You can factor in things like future population growth. So say, for example, you have a particular area in the city that you know there's going to be a specific plan with a significant amount of development or a large set of apartment projects that you know there's going to be significant population coming into that area. You have to draw boundaries that are within that population deviation of 10% that we talked about, but you could slightly underfill that district if you know that there's going to be significant development coming in there. Finally, when we talk here about respecting voters' choices, continuity in office, and then minimizing the voters shifted to different election years, as we discussed, the districts are segmented in terms of which districts vote in 2022 and which districts vote in 2024. Let's say, for example, you're currently in a 2022 district, but your line gets moved and then you get moved into a 2024 district. We can look to try to minimize the number of voters that get shifted between those different election years. So here is the new 2020 demographics and a couple of key and important things to look at here. This is a table that shows the breakdown of population and demographic data of the existing districts, but with the updated 2020 data. You'll see here, your total population right now is 89,518. And you'll see what we have here, what's called the deviation from the ideal and your percentage deviation. Basically, the ideal, it's a kind of a nebulous term, but it's essentially a mathematical formula to say, okay, if you had perfectly divided districts, you take your total population of 89,518 and divide it by the number of districts. So in this instance, 5. That's how you get your ideal number. And then the deviation where you see percentage there is the difference in percentage from the largest district, which in this instance is District 1, to District 4, which is the smallest district. That percentage that you take gets you to 10.08%. So you are slightly above the 10% allowable deviation, which is necessitating that we need to go through the redistricting process. You'll also see here that there are two important components in terms of looking at the population figures. You'll see both total population and breakdowns of certain demographic characteristics. You see Hispanic, non-Hispanic, white, African Americans, and Asian Americans. And then you'll see down on the bottom here, we have citizen voting age population. Now, this is particularly important to look at when we are looking at, are there protected class majority districts, for example. So you can see here, right now, in terms of the citizen voting age population, I should mention that when we reference citizen voting age population, that's any citizen within the city that is over 18 years of age. It does not mean that he or she are registered to vote. It's just anyone who is a citizen who is of eligible voting age. And you'll see here currently that we have 3 districts, 2, 3, and 4, that are currently majority Hispanic seats in terms of citizen voting age population. So here is a map of the existing council districts and showing each one of the districts geographically to see where the differentiation in terms of population is. So you can see that District 1, again, is the largest population, and District 4, the purple colored district, is now the smallest district. An important thing to remember, you see, say, for example, District 4, that's at minus 5.42%. You may think, does that mean that District 4 shrunk? The answer to that is no. It's just that the other districts grew at a faster relative rate than District 4 did. And so it's not that when you see the smaller percentages or the minus, for example, in Districts 3 and 4, that doesn't mean that those districts shrunk in population. It's just that the other districts grew at a faster pace than those. The other thing, and we talked about this at the last hearing, was what we call the citizen voting age population data. And these maps here show the citizen voting age population by census block. And you'll see here, for each one of the maps that I'm going to show you here, there are color coded, and the color coding is the same for each one of these. So the purple and bluish colors are lower percentages for a particular demographic. And then the orange or yellowish and orange colors are the higher percentages. So you can see here that there's a pretty significant amount of Hispanic citizen voting age population across the city. This is Asian citizen voting age population. As well as African-American citizen voting age population data. And there are some areas, particularly within districts 4 and 5, that have some areas of significant African-American citizen voting age population. So now let's talk more specifically about neighborhoods and communities of interest, because this is what we'd like your feedback for this evening, and from the general public as well, as to what you think are your neighborhoods and communities of interest and how you want to define them. So when we talk about a neighborhood, it's exactly what you would think it would be. Neighborhoods can have physical features defining a neighborhood boundary. They could be natural, so mountains, rivers, streams, those types of things. They could have unnatural dividing lines, highways, major roads, canals, those types of things. Or they can be an area around a particular landmark, so park or school, a downtown, a certain particular area in a neighborhood or other landmarks. Communities of interest, as I mentioned, and this is specifically coming out of AB 849 or the Fair Maps Act, has a very specific definition, and it's in red there, as you'll see. It's called a community of interest is a population that shares a common social or economic interest that should be included within a single district for its purposes of effective and fair representation. So it's an area that the public and council deem an area that is connected and should be included within one district for its purposes of effective and fair representation. So what does that mean in practice? It's really taking that geographic area and then adding a shared issue or characteristic on top of that. So it could be a shared social or economic interest. It could also be an area that is similarly impacted by either city or county's policies. And we're asking you to tell us your community story. So would this community that you're identifying benefit from being included within a single district for its purposes of effective and fair representation? Or would it benefit from having multiple representatives? That's a policy choice that we're asking you to give us feedback on, and something that you can again give us feedback on what you think are those districts, and again, should it be have one representative or multiple representatives for its best representation. So this evening, we'll be having discussion and action, giving us, during the public hearing, we'll receive testimony and provide us feedback on areas that meet each one of the AB 849 definitions of neighborhoods and communities of interest. Finally, let's talk about the key dates and next steps. Again, we mentioned that we had our first public hearing on November 3rd. Tonight is the second pre-draft map hearing to identify neighborhoods and communities of interest. The next two hearings in both January and February of 2022 will be post-map hearings. So we will be releasing and we'll just be discussing with Roxanne and the city manager to talk about, we'll be putting together an online mapping tool for you where the citizens can submit maps for where they think the election line should be drawn. And so we can get those maps in, we'll process them and be able to talk about them at public hearings. And so the third and fourth hearings on January 19th and February 2nd will be to discuss those draft maps, give us edits and changes that you may want, or to bring back different maps. And then the fourth hearing will also be the introduction of the ordinance. And second reading is scheduled for March 2nd of 2022. You'll see here we gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room because this process has to be done. There's a hard deadline on April 17th of April 17th of 2022 to be able to qualify to that map to get to the registrar of voters for November elections. And again, these maps will apply to the November of 2022 elections and beyond from there. So with that, that concludes my presentation for this evening and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you for your presentation. This is a public hearing item.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the public hearing. And we do have one request to speak here in person. And that would be Adriana Rivera.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Wayman Furman and Mayor Pro Tem Oscar Ortiz. As a person that was invested during the campaign trail a few years back, it feels quite gratifying to be here in this moment. And I just wanted to share that. The amount of people that came out to support this night is evidence to the fact you are from this community. And I am very proud, along with everyone else, to be here. So that being said, I am Adriana Rivera. I come to you from Valencia Avenue, Sun Gold community. I've been living there for about a year. And to the north of me is Hoover Elementary. To my west is Dominguez Park and Monroe Avenue. To my south is Bliss Avenue. And to my east is Miles Park. Over Thanksgiving, I took a bike ride in the neighborhood, something that's very important to me, being physically active, working in physical therapy. I like to be outdoors, and I was on a bike ride. My intent was to go to see the Indio murals. I was going to take a tour de Indio murals on my bike. Myself, my prima, and my partner was on her roller skates, and it was quite a pleasant time. I encourage others in the neighborhood to go outside and kind of be in the sidewalks and in the parks. We only made it as far as Quick and Easy convenience store and saw the hummingbird and flower mural on the corner of King and Miles Avenue. And then we ended up making our way back home. But I also wanted to highlight Miles Park recently had goal frames for soccer put in. I have yet to take my crack at those, but I'm looking forward to it as well. So yeah, for me, community means, being access to our parks, and I know things are coming. The Jackson Park Sports Complex is to be coming in the future. I'm very excited for that. Recently, I did notice closures on Miles Avenue, the Indio Food Park, along with Little Street Studio, were, I believe they were creating great opportunities for community to gather. And I hope the city continues to support businesses like that in the future. And last thing, in October, I attended an open mic night at the Coachella Valley Art Center right here on Town Street. I danced along to lyricist and vocalist. I was moved to emotion, laughter, and tears by the poets. And I invite all others to come out December 10th, right here at CVAC, December 10th, 6 to 9 p.m. Either be a member of the audience or come show us your talent. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Rivera. Ms. Sanchez, do we have anyone online?
I believe I do have, if Annalisa Vargas is in the audience.
Okay.
And then after her, it will follow by Sandra Tolento. She's on Zoom, but Annalisa will help translate for her. Yes, and also George. And George. Okay.
We have a translator as well, so.
She's interpreter for them.
Oh, okay.
In the meetings.
Oh, okay. Ms. Vargas?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Annalisa Vargas, and I've lived in the city of Indio for the last 10 years. My community is located in North Indio. It includes the neighborhoods, schools, parks, and businesses located on both sides of the I-10 freeway. It includes Amistad High School, Jackson Elementary. I don't know if Eisenhower Elementary is still, if it's open, and Richard Oliphant Elementary School. The major streets are Golf Center Drive, Jackson Street, Monroe Avenue 42, 44, and Highway 111. I've lived in various parts of Indio over the years. For example, I lived in Smoke Tree Apartments between 2011 through the end of 2015. I currently reside in Desert Trace, where my parents bought a home in 2014. Although I would like to purchase a home, there are no affordable options. Currently, the only housing options in this area are single-family homes that range from the mid 400 to 500,000s. Many young families and professionals face the same challenge when searching for affordable housing in the city of Indio. Affordable housing, healthy food options, clean air, and green spaces to recreate and congregate as a community are important to us. My community includes working families, young professionals, and retired individuals, the majority of which are Latinx. It's a fast-growing area with new businesses popping up frequently. There are small businesses, restaurants, some commercial centers, and a few small parks in my community. There are children that play or recreate in the street or in the cul-de-sacs, but there aren't very many parks nearby. They ride their bikes, scooters, walk in the neighborhood, play football. I often see people walking or jogging on the sidewalks off Jackson Street and Avenue 42. I have a young daughter who's 13 months and loves to explore and be outdoors. She now gets bored of being in the front and backyard, so I often drive to a park so she can have more space to play. There is a trail in the center of my neighborhood, but there are no sidewalks or large green spaces. Community parks, green spaces for everyone to enjoy are also very important to my community. I invited community residents who are very interested in participating in today's redistricting public hearing, but most were either working or had other commitments. According to the Fair Maps Act, at least one of the public hearings should be held on a weekend. And so I had recommended that it be held on a Saturday evening to accommodate community residents that are unable to make it on a weekday. So like youth and some of other individuals that, like I mentioned, they're just, they're still at work. They get out like at 7. And so on behalf of those residents, I would like to also ask, what is the deadline to submit community of interest testimony? And then also when will the mapping tool be up so that we're able to prepare draft maps to submit? Thank you so much. Right on time.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas.
Oh, yes. And if you're okay, I'd like to have Sandra Tolento on Zoom, and she will speak and she will translate for her.
Absolutely.
That's okay. Do my best. Sandra?
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Sandra Tolento. He vivido en la ciudad de Indio por los últimos 7 años. Mi comunidad está ubicada en el centro de Indio, la cual incluye el Boulevard de Dr. Carrión y Avenida Mayos.
My name is Sandra Tolento. I've lived in the city of Indio for the last 7 years. The major streets include Indio Boulevard, Dr. Carrión, and Monroe Street.
donde podemos encontrar áreas comerciales, escuelas como Dr. Carrión Elementary School, Indio Middle School, la preparatoria de Indio, entre otras.
And there's commercial centers, the schools that are, the schools there are Dr. Carry, I forgot the name of the schools,
Carry
I'm
On.
sorry, Carry On. And
I think
I
she said
don't-
Indio Middle School.
Indio Middle School and Indio High School.
Thank you, Sandra.
Incluye también apartamentos e estudios de bajos ingresos como Mountain View y Cielo Vista Apartments. De clase media tenemos Watercrest, Andorra, entre otros. Las calles principales de mi comunidad son Highway 111 y Calle Monroe.
So
Mi
this
com-
currently resides on our Highway 111 in Monroe, and she mentioned the different apartments that are in her area, and she did a great job. So I wouldn't repeat all the apartments.
Mi comunidad. Yes, mi comunidad está formada por familias latinas de clase trabajadora. Los miembros de mi comunidad trabajan en servicios de jardinería, construcción, tiendas comestibles como Food for Less, Walmart, El Super y restaurantes de comida rápida.
And so most of the families are Latino working class families, and they work at different, from gardening to fast food restaurants. ¿Qué más dijiste, Sandra? Yeah, supermarkets.
Yes, Food for Less, Walmart. So, en estos 7 años he tenido la oportunidad de disfrutar esta bella ciudad con su tradicional feria de dátil, festival de tamal, pero a su misma vez.
So Sandra has opportunity to enjoy the festivals that are happening in our community, and like the Date Festival, the Tamal Festival. But
Como madre de familia, al igual que muchas otras, tenemos la necesidad de viajar a ciudades vecinas.
But at the same time, as a mother, she feels that there's things that are lacking in the city that are in other cities, neighboring cities.
Para poder salir con nuestras familias a un parque de calidad.
She would like quality parks.
Debido a que no contamos con parques seguros para nuestros niños.
We can't count on being able to have safe parks for her children.
Donde puedan jugar libremente sin peligro de ser expuestos.
Without being able to play, freely play without having any for it to be a safe place for them to play.
Familias que han tenido que moverse a otra ciudad debido a no poder tener la posibilidad de un hogar accesible para su familia.
So she's also witnessed families that have been displaced due to the fact that there is no lack of affordable housing.
En mi comunidad, nuestras familias, nuestros niños son la prioridad.
In her family, the children are the priority.
Y como tal, necesitamos esa seguridad a parques limpios.
And because of that, we definitely need safe and clean parks.
Completos, libres de drogas.
That are, have the full amenities and that are free of drugs.
So if you can.
Okay.
Indigentes. Ajá.
Sí, sí dice que tu tiempo ha expirado, pero sé que estábamos traduciendo, pero
solo
ya
tengo 3, ya. Indigentes para nuestros hijos, para puedan jugar y disfrutar y crecer en la ciudad que los vio nacer.
So she just wants the quality, safe places for her children, especially in an area where they're growing up.
Great.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. And thank you for helping us with that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And I believe there's Jorge Bojorquez in person.
Mr. Bojorquez.
Hello.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is my first time participating in an event like this. It's a very wholesome and welcome community. Anyways, my name is George Bojorquez. I've lived in the city of Indio for 24 years now. My community is located in central Indio and includes Highway 111 commercial area, Indio High School, Indio Teen Center, Indio Senior Center, and the Indio Recreation Center, which is adjacent park. Let's see here, lost my placing. My community also includes Andorra Apartments, where I live with my family, Cielo Vista Apartments, Los Árboles Apartments, and the surrounding residential neighborhoods on Shadow Palm Avenue. The major streets are Monroe Street, Avenue 46, and Clinton Street. My community consists of the working class families. Members of my community work at grocery stores like Fufoles, El Super, fast food restaurants, and small businesses, like Marshall's Fashion Cleaning, and not all jobs provide stability or good benefits, and many have to seek other job Employment opportunities. Most of my community live in multi-generational homes. Also, it is very common for multiple families to live in one apartment or a single family home. It is also common for families to rent out a room in order to help ends meet. Fair and affordable housing is important to my community. I grew up utilizing the resources around me, like the recreation center and the teen center. It was very critical to my upbringing to have these extracurricular activities. Ensuring that our youth have healthy activities that are accessible to them is very important to my community. Green spaces are also very essential to my community, but we don't have enough of them. Being that my community is very centralized in the city, it creates a lot of traffic, especially when school begins and ends. There are many children and teens and families that are either walking or driving in that area. Therefore, it's very important for my community to have extra safety measures, like walking guards or traffic control. The after-school scene can be very chaotic, and we want to ensure everyone's safety. Poverty is a major problem in the community. We are molded by our immediate environment. Not all young people have positive influences in their lives, which could lead to bad decisions. I've seen many talented youth go down the wrong path because of this. We need to create more spaces and opportunities for our youth to flourish and thrive in the city of Indio. We got 36 minutes. Well, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Jorquez. Ms. Sanchez, do we have any more comments?
I have no other comments, either in person or in Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So now, since there's no more comments, I will close the public hearing and I'd like to open it up for our council to comment on what they see fit as keeping the community together, whether it's schools, supermarkets, shopping districts, canals, major highways. So I'd like to ask the council for input as we have a consultant here and we move forward.
And if I can jump in, what we're looking at is if you see any communities of interest that are not together right now, that should be. And so that's the feedback that we want to give to our consultant, and he can, if I'm stating anything incorrectly, he can jump in. But this is the purpose of this hearing, is to look at whether there are some communities of interest that may be in different districts right now, or maybe not cohesive. So that's the feedback we're looking for. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes.
I think Lily has her hands up.
We'll start with council member Amit. She has her hand raised.
Thank you, Mayor Furman. I know that last time we set on the district boundaries, there were some communities of interest that were split, but without having the maps in front of us, it's kind of hard to make comments on it at this time. I think that if the consultant is open to receiving comments from us after we've had time to sit down with the existing map, that would be a much more productive conversation. Because I don't believe that we can just say that all communities of interest will follow school boundaries or shopping center boundaries, because our city evolved in a very unique way. It grew from the center of town, which is where the downtown commercial district is, and kind of spread outward. So communities of interest were created as eras and eras of our city evolution occurred. So it's not necessarily connected to shopping centers or school boundaries, and would need a little bit more time for us to be able to sit down and articulate that to the consultant.
Okay, thank you, council member. Councilmember Ortiz, do you have any comments or suggestions for the consultant as we move forward?
Yes, first I just wanted to thank our residents for the feedback and the input. I definitely agree with some of their concerns of especially affordable housing and the improvements to our parks. And I hope we can take that into consideration as we move forward with our strategic plan and how what funding we're going to put into those items that we talked about yesterday. So based on some of that feedback, but also based on just in general, looking at these maps, I think two of the things that come to mind for me is if we can also see average income when we're looking at these numbers. I know we had a lot of numbers based on ethnicity, but I would also like to see average income and also average age, because I think different age of families are looking for different things, right? So it's different if you have a retirement community compared to a community of people of younger families who may have lower incomes or are looking for different amenities in their neighborhoods. So average income and average age of citizens is two of the things that I would like to see as numbers for when we're looking at how we're splitting up these districts. One of the areas that I did see a big difference is in my district when you're crossing Highway 111. I think that tends to be more of a retirement community compared to the rest of our districts. So maybe we could take a look at that area. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may, so I didn't put them to the presentation, but as part of the census data, we have what's called from the American Community Survey, and it's a more detailed census data. It's not sent out to everybody. It's sent out to, I believe, 1 in 15 or 1 in 17 residents. But we get data that the council member was requesting. So we have data on average income. We don't necessarily have specific age data, but we have percentages of children present within the district or children living at home. And we also can get percentages too by census block of residents who live in multifamily settings. So we can get all that data, and I can put those thematic maps together.
Okay, thank you. And I want to correct myself. Mayor Pro Tem is Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz, not council member. We got to get used to that. Councilmember Miller.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think we did a fairly good job when we did the maps last time. I think we did it a lot by interest based on the set up at the time, using major furloughs of roads, school districts, and the boundaries of gated communities and other communities that were pretty much of interest, like downtowns pretty much stayed together. The only thing I see on this one here compared to what you're talking about is it looks like we need to shave off a couple of areas in District 1, maybe a little bit in District 2 in that same area, and add it to District 4. There's a couple of communities there that I think would blend in with Community 4 a little bit better once you see the maps and you look at it. They have the same kind of interest and the same areas that they utilize. So I think that's where Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz is talking about, is making sure that we have the communities of interest. If you have families together looking for parks, are they going to be able to have that same voice in the area? Even though we all do agree on a lot of these issues, you know, there are communities of areas that want specific things, and that representation is something they need. So looking forward to the maps, and we'll be able to do a lot more from there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Holmes.
I agree. As I'm studying this map, and I know I have a much larger map in the office, I recall when we went through the process that we tried to make a concerted effort to keep entire, neighborhoods intact. I don't know that we are 100% successful. And I think to that end, I like to go back and take a closer look, and probably drive the city a little bit to see, if there's some areas that need to be packaged, but we also have the numbers that we have to, requirements that we have to meet as well to make sure there's any equality amongst the community. So I will make the commitment to drive around a little bit and try to refresh my memory on the parameters of each of these districts.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Holmes. I like to ask, when will the mechanism or maps be available for the community? Because I think the community input is going to be vital on how we make decisions moving forward. The people live in these communities, so they know what's attached and what shouldn't be attached. And so I want to gauge it from there. And also, if we make that available to our community, will it be on the website, or also the income and age and those things? That information is out there, the data is out there. So is there a way we could just connect that to these maps so folks can have an idea when they're looking at these maps what those incomes are? So maybe that's something that they can also use when they're submitting that information. And sure, one more thing is, it was brought up by one of the speakers about weekend meetings. I think that would be vital to have some more engagement. I would like to hear from some of our younger folks and some folks who are unable to make it due to work or other reasons. So I think looking at that schedule, looking at a weekend would be ideal.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's something that we could consider doing, a community workshop or something like that. Obviously up to the council to give us direction on that, but that's something that other cities have done and we could consider. In terms of the thematic maps that you asked for, maybe what we can do is I can add those into the presentation. We can just turn that into a PDF and then put that onto our redistricting portion of the website. I can make that over the next couple of days. Those are easy to do. In terms of the public mapping tool, I'll be speaking with Roxanne and the city manager here over the next couple of days. We just want to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of the mapping tool that we want to use. But we can do a relatively quick turnaround on that probably in the next week or two.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate the presentation.
And I think once we have the public mapping tool up, I understand that residents can submit their own maps. I mean, that's the tools there for them to use.
Yes.
And it gets submitted through the mapping tool. Is that correct?
Yes. And then so what we'll do is we'll take those maps, and then during the draft map hearings, what we'll do is we'll assign a numerical number to each one of the maps that we get submitted, so that we can go back and say, okay, I want to look at map 107, or so that we know there's a particular order. And also what we'll do, we usually see when maps get submitted that there's a particular theme that's associated with it. So if there are maps that are similar in the theme and the way that they're drawn, we'll put those together and say, okay, the next 2 or 3 maps are an iteration of this theme. So you guys can take a look at that kind of by blocks.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I wasn't here when we did the last map, but I know from looking at our map, our city has evolved. A lot of folks have moved into the community. There's been more development, so it's going to be interesting looking and see where we go from here. But I just think the component of community input is going to be important moving forward. So council, if no one has any further.
Another question. I actually just wanted to follow up on a question from one of our residents. They had 2 questions, one was, what is the deadline for input on the community of interest testimony? And the second one was, when will the tool for drawing the maps be up?
Yeah, so as we discussed, I'm gonna circle back with Roxanne and the city manager on the mapping tool. And once we kind of get the green light on which mapping tool you want to use, there's some lead time depending on which one you want to use, but one of them we can get up pretty quickly. In terms of the communities of interest, you guys can continue to give us feedback, and if there are particular communities that you want to identify, what we could do is draw them into the mapping tool, and just we can put them again as part of the presentation. I can make a map similar to the thematic maps that I'm going to make and put that into the PDF of the presentation, so that people can see when they're considering their districts. Maybe those areas that you guys have identified, if any, do you want to keep together as part of the process, the thought process of going through on how they want to draw their maps.
And then members of the public can submit any information on their communities of interest.
Yes.
They could submit a letter to the city clerk, and she'll collect those, and we'll have that as part of the record as well.
Or you want to send an email or something
Or
like that.
email to the clerk.
I think that the question is, what's the deadline? We're gonna folks.
Well, so the community of interest information is used to put together a draft map. And so our next public hearing in January will be that first draft map.
Okay.
So it's as if we'll be collecting, the consultant will be working with myself, and we'll be collecting the data, and then the consultant will look at all that data gathered by the community, gathered by the council members, to put together the first draft map.
Okay, and one other suggestion.
I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry, just one other suggestion that I would say, if we're looking at expanding District 4, 2 areas that I would look at would be the intersection of Clinton and Fred Waring, and also the areas north of the high school.
I'm sorry, north of what?
The high school.
North of Indio.
High school.
Yeah.
And which high school is that?
Indio High School.
High school. Okay.
Yeah, that's currently in District 5, and I never understood why they put that in District 5, because it makes sense to be in District 4.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a portion of District 4 that naturally blends with District 5, which is south of Avenue 48, is it?
Yeah.
So that's why I said I need a little more time to take a look at these from last time, because there were some obvious communities that were split up. And I'll be happy to get my comments in within the next week to city attorney.
Yeah.
Great. And we hope to have that mapping tool up hopefully by next week if we can, if that's, it's Wednesday now. So as soon as we can, and that'll be on our redistricting website, and we'll post on social media, and we'll use our banners on our website to let the public know and the community know when the mapping tool is up and running. And yes, and any deadlines for submittal.
Great. All right, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
All right. This doesn't require any motion, so the council will receive and file this and report from staff. So what we'll do now, we'll circle back to item number 10 was report on city council external and internal boards, and we'll continue with council member Ortiz, Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz.
Thank you. Let me pull up my notes just a second here. Thank you, Mayor. I had a meeting with the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Energy and Environment Committee. Tom Kirk gave us an update that the federal government has included CV Sync and broadband infrastructure in its 18 projects for its broadband initiative, but we're still waiting to see how much funding exactly will be given for these efforts. And CV Sync is a project to add synchronized streetlights on Highway 111, Ramon Road, and Washington Street to reduce traffic, and also includes laying down broadband infrastructure with those replacements. We also had a presentation from Ohm Connect, which is partnering with SoCal Edison to give free smart thermostats to residents to help in reducing their electricity use. This technology also alerts you when there is high strain on the power system, so it can help prevent power outages and help reduce the use of extra power plants that need to come on during high demand. And this would lower energy costs for everyone in the long term. IID was also in that meeting, and they are looking for an opportunity to provide this service to IID customers as well. We also got an update on the new Inland Empire Regional Energy Network. This is CVAG teaming up with San Bernardino and Western Riverside to form their own regional energy network. And this allows us to focus more funding from our tax dollars locally instead of leaving it to bigger city areas that often happens at the time. We also received the draft of the Urban Greening Guide from CVAG, something I've been pushing to get to our cities. This is a guide focused on what we can do in the public sector to choose the best trees that reduce water usage, help provide shade for people and buildings, which will reduce energy use, and also help our native species of wildlife. After the meeting, I got a message from Jacob Alvarez, who is assistant to the city manager in Coachella. He helped in writing this Urban Greening Guide, and he offered to come give a presentation to us here at our chambers if we would like. So I would like to ask our council if we can give direction to our staff to set up that presentation for us. I also attended the strategic plan meeting with our council last night. I wanted to thank our city manager and staff for bringing up a lot of excellent suggestions for what we could do to improve the quality of life for our residents and businesses. We went through topics such as public safety, job growth, infrastructure, and community beautification. And the next steps will be putting dollar amounts to all of these suggestions so that we can decide which options to prioritize while still balancing our budget. And lastly, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Tamale Festival is going to be this weekend. There's going to be a lot of great food, a lot of fun events there. So please come on by and bring your kids and bring the whole family. And hopefully we'll see everybody having a good time there. Thanks.
All righty. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your report. Councilmember Amit, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening.
All right, so that will conclude that item. So we'll go back down and we'll go to item number 13, administrative items. And we'll start with item 13.1.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Due to the fact that I have a small business of financial interest in the downtown, I must recuse myself.
Thank you.
And that business is within 500 to 1,000 feet of the item that is before us.
All righty. 13.1 is approval of a lease with Miles DTI LLC for property located at 82
82-851 and 82-867 Miles Avenue, and finding of conformity with the general plan. And Mr. Carl Morgan, our Director of Economic Development, will be handling this item.
Hi, I had to run from my office. I thought the city manager's report was going to be next. So I started panicking, throwing the coat, grab the stuff and run. Okay. Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, Carl Morgan, Economic Development Director. Staff is pleased to bring to you this evening for your consideration and approval a commercial lease between Miles DTI LLC and the City of Indio. The lease before you this evening is a draft, and we have a few minor points we need to work out with the tenant, but we wanted to bring it to you in the spirit of getting things done, bring it in early December and then finishing it up by the end of the year. Hopefully this thing is working. Yes. Here we go. We're so excited to have Skip Page, former CEO of Golden Voice, and Roman Whitaker as partners in this endeavor. Entering into this lease will result in the development of 3 restaurants in downtown, a large bar and grill and tap room, a sushi bar, and then another fine dining establishment, most likely Italian food. And what's really great about this is it's really bringing a lot of energy to downtown on Miles Avenue and adjacent to the outdoor living room that we're talking about and working on to create, and also fits in really nicely with the enlivenment of downtown, bringing regular monthly events into our downtown. The lease facilitates an investment of over $700,000 in interior build out, exterior facade improvements, and outdoor dining space. The city-owned property subject to the lease is a 10,000, should be up on this thing is slow. There you go. So it's a 10,420 square foot building on a 15,000 square foot parcel. It's located at the southeast corner of Miles Avenue and Town Street. It's a property that we bought a few years ago from Bill Tangi and his wife. It needs a lot of work. It needs some roof renovation. It needs HVAC and a number of other things. So to get it ready for tenants such as these, we're looking to put some additional money into the tenant improvements. The salient business points of the agreement. The term of the lease is 7 years with 2 5-year options. The lease also includes a provision for first offer, first right of refusal. And that's if in the event that the city wants to sell the property or the tenant wants to purchase the property, it gives both parties the option. We would appraise the property based upon its fair market value at that time, and then roll forward with a sale if in fact the parties agree. The rent consists of a combination of a minimum rent and a percentage rent with built-in increases. This slide outlines the minimum rents, terms, and increases as indicated in the staff report. These are mirror what's in the staff report. And then the next slide outlines the percentage rent based upon annual gross sales and sets forth a $375,000 tenant allowance that is a part of the lease. And so the recommendation to City Council is to approve the lease with Miles DTI LLC for the property located at 82851 and 82867 Miles Avenue. Authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute the lease in the form approved by the city manager and city attorney. And authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the lease and find that the lease is in conformance with the general plan. And that concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. This is an administrative item. Do we have any comments on this? Or?
No comments, Mayor.
Okay. So now I would open it up to the council for questions and comments of staff. Councilmember Ortiz, do you have any questions or comments for staff?
Comments for staff.
One more time and I'm going to owe you.
I just want to say thank you to our staff for bringing this forward and for working with the developers to get this going. I think this is a really promising project for our downtown, and it will bring some much needed attention down there and some much needed foot traffic. So thank you again to the developers and to our staff.
Councilmember Meade.
I too want to congratulate staff and the developer for working on this proposal. It's going to be a great addition and a great kickstart to the downtown area. So I look forward to the end product. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I concur. I think it's a great opportunity for both the developers and the city of Indio to start our downtown and start to get some foot traffic, music, and other opportunities into the downtown area to breathe some life into it as we continue to do work on our park. And we have some other opportunities obviously coming up forward that hopefully we'll be able to announce pretty soon. And so if you don't mind, I'll make the motion, and if you'd like to say a few words first.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Morgan on a great presentation, and thank you for bringing this to us. And thank you for working so hard and activating our downtown. We did have our strategic meeting planning. We had our last council meeting when our city manager gave us an update on our downtown living room. So we have a few things working for us downtown. We also have an art project, the cacti that was featured at the Coachella Music and Arts Festival in 2019. So we have a lot of these projects coming, and it's going to activate our downtown area. And it's been a long time coming, so I'm super excited. Thank you for this, and we're looking forward to you bringing more projects to us. Mr. Page has other thriving businesses in our community, so we're looking forward to him bringing something downtown, and we're ready for it. So with that being said, if someone would like to entertain a motion.
I'm more than happy to make that motion. I see Roman Whitaker here, one of the partners is here.
Here?
Oh, say yeah, he's in the back. So,
Mr. Whitaker, if you have some comments, you'd like to come up to the microphone.
He's an ex-lawyer. I don't think there's anything he wouldn't say.
My apologies. I didn't see you back there.
Madam, come up and have a few words.
Honorable Mayor Furman, esteemed council, Mr. City Manager, thank you very much for all the work that we've put into this. I'm super excited. This is a sort of a next chapter in my life from being a lawyer. Kind of tired of being a lawyer. So yeah, you can feel me, Roxanne. So yeah, I'm really excited. I've lived in Indio for 10 years. I'm a big fan of Indio, big supporter of Indio. Certainly get tired of having to drive out of my city to go to restaurants when I can just come to downtown Indio. And that's really the selfish reason that I'm doing this. So I appreciate your support.
We appreciate that.
We appreciate your selfish reason.
Yes.
Because we have the same sentiment. And so this is great that you're coming into our community to do this, and we appreciate it. And we're looking forward to more in our community. So thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve the lease with Miles DTI LLC for the property at 82851 and 82867 Miles Avenue, and authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute the lease in the form approved by the city manager and city attorney, and authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the lease and find that the lease is in conformance with the general plan.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Miller and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz. Can I have a vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes? Oh,
She's
sorry.
recused.
Yes. Councilmember Miller?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos Amit?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz?
Aye.
And Mayor Furman?
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, sir. Exciting stuff. Welcome back, Councilmember Holmes. All righty. So now we'll move on to item 13.2, which is introduction of ordinance number 1767, amending chapter 114, vending by push cart or vending by vehicle, and chapter 117, solicitation of the Indio Municipal Code to clarify existing regulations and regulate sidewalk vendors pursuant to Senate Bill 946, and City Attorney Roxanne Diaz to be handling this item.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and just do it from here. I do not have a presentation today, but I will go through my report and certainly happy to answer any questions. What we have before you really is a cleanup item with respect to the new state law that requires cities to update their ordinances with that's related to pushcart vendors is what we, the old name of what we now call the sidewalk vendors. And so we're bringing this forward to be consistent with current state law and also to update provisions related to food trucks. And we've added a new provision regarding food trucks on private property. There are government code provisions that regulate sidewalk vendors, and this law has narrowed the city's discretion to regulate such businesses. Any ordinance that regulates sidewalk vendors needs to comply with this new legislation. And in addition, there are limitations with respect to the imposition of criminal penalties for sidewalk vendors as well. The law was to promote entrepreneurship and to remove barriers that entrepreneurs face in this type of an economy and to provide parameters for local regulations that are not overly restrictive. So first, I'd like to define what a sidewalk vendor is. State law defines this as any person who sells food or merchandise from a push cart, a wagon, or other non-motorized conveyance, or from his or her person while on a public sidewalk or pedestrian path. The ordinance provides for regulation of two different types of sidewalk vendors. One is called the stationary vendor, which is a person who's vending from a fixed location, and the roaming vendor, which is a person who's moving from place to place and only stops to complete a transaction. Under the government code, we're prohibited from restricting the overall number of sidewalk vendors that are allowed to operate in the jurisdiction unless it's directly related to health, safety, or welfare concerns. The sidewalk vendors have to obtain consent of any non-governmental entity or individual before selling goods or merchandise. We can require sidewalk vendors to operate within specific parts of the public right of way. For example, they cannot go into the median strips in the highway, and we can require, we're prohibited from requiring sidewalk vendors to only operate in designated neighborhoods or areas, except if it's directly related to health, safety, or welfare concerns. And so the way that we're able to regulate is in a time, place, and manner restriction. And so we can place limitations on hours of operation as long as it's not unduly restrictive. In non-residential areas, we can't adopt restrictions on hours of operation that are not imposed on the same businesses on the same street. We can require that they maintain sanitary conditions, require that the vendors comply with the ADA in terms of access for disability on the public sidewalks. And we can require that they obtain the licenses necessary, for example, from County of Riverside Environmental Health for food, a business license, any type of seller's permit that's required from the state. With respect to areas that are residential, the cities must allow roaming sidewalk vendors, but we can prohibit stationary sidewalk vendors in residential zones. And so this ordinance does do that. We cannot preclude sidewalk vendors from coming into public parks. The only limitation under state law, or the exception, I should say, is if the city has granted a concessionaire in the park to sell food, and there's an exclusive concession for the sale of food or merchandise, then we can prohibit sidewalk vendors. But otherwise, we can only include time, place, and manner restrictions in our parks that are directly related to health and safety and directly related to the public's use and enjoyment of that park. If we had a farmer's market or a swap meet, or we have some type of special event, we can prohibit the sidewalk vendors within the immediate vicinity of those types of events. And we have included in this ordinance a provision to that effect, which prohibits, for example, if there is a special event within 200 feet. One thing that we did look at in working with Jason Anderson, who's here tonight as well, in terms of our festivals, because of the area and the restrictions that we have from a security perspective, we believe that from a health, safety, and public welfare standard, that we have prohibited and included in this ordinance, we've prohibited sidewalk vending in the major music festival overlay, as well as during the time of the concerts, but during the times when there are restrictions into that area. Because as you know, there's a zone that happens pre-concert and post-concert where you need access to get into certain areas. And so we have included a provision in this ordinance that prohibits sidewalk vending in that area. So from the proposed ordinance, what's already required now is a business license. We will be requiring a vending permit. We've met with staff, and to make sure that this is seamless, staff will be working so that really when somebody comes in to get their business license, the vending permit is attached to that. If the sidewalk vendor is selling food, they'll be required to get the food handler certification and approvals from the county. Everybody will be required to have liability insurance. The permit is non-transferable and it's valid for 12 months. There are certain operating requirements, and those are in section 11416. So for example, there are location limitations such as the sidewalk vendor cannot be within 10 feet of a street intersection or a driveway apron. They cannot be within 300 feet of a school between school hours 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And as I stated, they're prohibited from the major music festival overlay zone. In terms of hours of operation in residential zones, the hours of operations would be 8 to 7 p.m. Again, non-residential, no more restrictive than what is happening with the same businesses on that street. And with respect to city parks, vending is only permitted during the open hours of the park. And again, there's no stationary vending in residential zones. And if there is a stationary vendor to vend on the sidewalk, they will need to get an encroachment permit from Public Works. In terms of the vending vehicles, which we commonly known as food trucks or mobile food trucks, what we did here is we already had provisions in our code with respect to food trucks in the public right of way. That is, the food trucks that are on the street in terms of opening up and selling their food. And so what's required now, again, is they still need to get a business license, and that's always been required. Attached to that will be a vending permit as well. And then we've carried over the restrictions from the current code into this new code. So for example, the vending operator cannot be within 100 feet of any street intersection controlled by a crosswalk, traffic sign, or stop sign. Same thing with a 10-foot from a driveway or driveway apron. And cannot be on any street, alley, or highway with a posted speed limit greater than 35 miles an hour, cannot obstruct pedestrian or vehicular traffic. What is new in this and the times of operation is from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., except that in residential vending areas, residential areas, it's only permitted between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. And there are some standards with respect to keeping trash receptacles and, of course, maintaining proof of insurance as well. With respect to regulations on private property, we met with both the planning staff, with Public Works, with finance, to make sure that we're all on the same page and to look at what we're doing now currently and not wanting this to be a burden on the activity that is happening that we currently have with respect to food trucks on private property. And so food trucks on private property is really a regulation, is a land use regulation. And so what the ordinance does is that it will require a permit that essentially needs to look at whether that use on the private property is compliant with the underlying zoning code and any applicable land use entitlements. And unless the vending is permitted by the zoning code or the land use entitlements, the vendor needs to get from the community development director an administrative permit. So it's an over-the-counter permit prior to engaging any type of activity. And the community development director will look at whether or not to grant this permit. They'll look at whether the vending is allowed under the underlying zone, whether the vending will make sure that the vending is not detrimental to the public safety and welfare or adversely affect property values, and that the property is physically suited for the activity. No administrative permit, however, going to be required for certain types of food truck activities. So a vehicle vending that serves a construction site, which we know happens now, as long as the vehicle doesn't vend to the general public, they usually come into the construction site or they're right on the street, they serve there for about 10 minutes and they move on to their next site, then no additional permit's going to be required. And there might be food trucks that are engaged for private parties as a means of catering, and those activities will not require an extra permit. And then the last activity, as staff looked at this, is that any vending vehicle that's on private property for no more than an hour, as long as they get the private property owner's permission to be on that property, and they have the written consent and it's compliant with the underlying zone, then no special permit will be required. So it's to encourage the vending activity that we see already now, and hopefully it won't be a burden on those types of activities. And then I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot. And Jason is here as well.
All right. Go ahead and start with Councilmember Ortiz.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, oh, you dinner. That's dinner. Oh, yeah. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. The one question I had was, I know initially I brought this up because we had issues with some fruit vendors that were selling right outside of some of our small businesses and taking away some of their business. So how is this going to help us for those vendors who are on public sidewalks in front of our local businesses?
So with respect to that, the vendor will have to come in and get a permit. They'll have to make sure that, we will check to make sure that they are licensed with the county environmental health, that they have a minimal amount of insurance. And so, this will provide us the tools to make sure that their operation is being conducted in a health and sanitary manner. We cannot prohibit them from being on the sidewalk. If they're roaming the sidewalk, then they're permitted under state law to do that. If they want to stand there, be a stationary sidewalk vending cart, then they would also need an encroachment permit, and we need to make sure that there's clearance for ADA purposes. So I know I'm not answering your question. We can't prohibit the competition that occurs between the sidewalk vendor and, let's say, the restaurant, in the same way that we can't prohibit a mobile food truck to park in front of a restaurant because it's a public street. But what we can do is make sure that everyone is licensed. And I think that's always been one of the issues with respect to the brick and mortar restaurants and food outfits, is that they're required to go through certain hoops to open their business. And here, the vendor cannot just open up shop. They will need to go through a process to be able to do that.
Yeah, but I think there's still an unfair advantage there because of the rent, right? The rent that our small businesses are paying compared to some of these sidewalk vendors. But how much authority do we have on those encroachment permits?
Well, because the law requires us to, the law is written so that it's more favorable to the sidewalk vendors. And so in terms of the encroachment permit, it depends on where they want to be in a stationary position. If they're roaming, then they have more leeway. But if they're stationary, then we'll need to make sure that what we're looking for is ADA clearance. And also making sure that they're not close to the intersection, that they're within a certain, feet of the intersection from a safety perspective.
And so if we were to deny an encroachment permit, it would have to be for those reasons of ADA compliance or being, something more safety related.
That is correct, is for that particular location.
And then, so how do you see this affecting our current neighborhood vendors, like our ice cream trucks, the people with the push carts? how do you see this affecting them? Well, what's different for them with this new ordinance?
So what would be different for them is, and maybe Jason could tell me, I think they do get, they're at least under the current ordinance, which is outdated, they're required to get a additional permit. Is that right?
Currently, they just get a business license.
Okay.
So currently we have numerous ice cream vendors and food trucks. They're all categorized as food vendors or food trucks. And most of them already have a license. What's new is the push cart sidewalk vendors that you see throughout the city. They currently do not require a permit because we have no mechanism to issue a permit. This actually will get them into the permitting scheme and get them licensed.
And talking with staff, we want to try to make it as seamless as possible. So we will be working and I guess integrating that vending permit with the business license as well. So it's one application for both.
Gotcha. Okay, that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ramid?
Kids who want to have a lemonade stand, are they going to be exempt?
I'm sorry?
You're breaking up a little bit.
I said kids who want to have a lemonade stand, are they going to be exempt?
There is not an exemption for kids having a lemonade stand. Certainly, no, there is not an exemption for that.
Could there be?
Private property, if it's on, like, let's say it's on their grass, on their lawn, then they certainly can do that. And that's what, probably if code enforcement sees it, that's what we would recommend. And Jason, if you have any.
Yeah, and we've looked at these issues before, and there's always discretion on our part. I know in my time with the city, we've come across these, and it's always a good idea to educate and not do any type of enforcement for young kids just trying to make a dollar or two and learn a lesson about running a business. So we always have discretion in any type of enforcement that we do.
Okay, Councilmember Miller?
Well, that definitely was a mouthful. So, but I see good and bad in this with everything. I mean, obviously you want entrepreneurs, you want people to have an opportunity, but I've seen them where they're parked in places that are not safe. One of them's on Jefferson by the AM/PM, right there on the corner on a busy street going 55, and they're turning in and people are stopping there in the areas. So there are some unsafe areas. And I think you're going to have some bad actors, but hopefully we can weed through them and it doesn't affect some of our normal businesses. And I have seen a lot of trash and debris people because they don't have trash receptacles, they don't have other stuff, things that restaurants have to do like restrooms and other stuff. They don't have to follow by. So people don't have trash, they throw it on the ground, they do the other stuff. So hopefully, especially if they're in our parks and that, they respect the community around them and clean things up. I know there's not much we can do about it, but hopefully we can help regulate it. Just a quick curiosity of myself, what about the Girl Scout cookies that I love so much? And they're out in front of the Stater Brothers. Do they have to get a permit to sell Girl Scout cookies?
If they're on private property, like they're inside of,
No, it's usually on the outside.
On the outside, that's not considered the public right of way.
Good.
So outside of the door, that's not, that's still private property.
Good, I love Girl Scout cookies.
I'm partial to the
So no, I just want to make sure that we don't tie people up into it. We don't have enough public safety and code enforcement to enforce some of these laws anyways, just as long as they're safe and they're following the rules and regulations. But it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort. I understand the reasons behind it, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to handicap cities and put local controls on top of those cities. LA, maybe it's a different story where you have a lot of that stuff. Small places like the Coachella Valley and other places, I think, needs to be regulated more, but it's state law. So we'll go with what we have.
And there is an operating requirement with respect to having a trash receptacle and making sure that the vendor picks up trash within 25 feet of their area.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of information and lots of challenges. I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem. It's a challenge when a restaurant, a small business has to have an amazing number of rules, including signage and everything else. And we see these vendors put a sign out that's handwritten and with a marking pen and no trash receptacles. The one on Jefferson there by by the apartments. It's an alleyway there by the market, right off of Highway 111. And so I was driving down that alley and people were standing, waiting for whatever their drink right on the edge of a piece of concrete that was lifting 6 inches from the street. And there was a line of people, so I couldn't even drive down the alley. And, and I try to, really sort of support the entrepreneurs, but I struggle when it encroaches on small businesses, and I struggle even more when it becomes a safety hazard and a trash magnet. I mean, I was just watching people milling around when I couldn't get past or through to get out to Jefferson, and they were just throwing stuff right on the alleyway. So there's always those exceptions, and I think this is a hard one, but the support that you can give us, I think in these extreme situations will be a step in the right direction.
Thank you, council member. I just want to add that, these are laws that are coming down from the state, and, these laws were made to actually encourage folks to go into entrepreneurism. And I hope this ordinance serves as a learning tool and really communicating with our street vendors, especially how to be safe, how to do things legally, because I don't want to restrict folks from making a living, especially in our economy right now. And I don't want this to be put out like this. So I hope it serves as a learning tool for folks to be safe, especially around traffic, driveways, our major intersections, places where there's no sidewalks, just dirt, because we do have times when we will have vendors out. For instance, on 4th of July, Memorial Day, or those Thanksgiving, you're going to have a lot of street vendors selling flowers around the cemetery, that area, going that route, Highway 111. So, I mean, I understand the safety part of it, but I just hope it serves as a learning tool. And the goal is to be safe and legal. A lot of these folks do travel from out of town, and they come and drop off our vendors, and they work. So I hope that's what the goal here is. I don't want to restrict folks from trying to work. I just want them to do it safe. And when we do have major events, say the Coachella Fest is in town, and we have folks who want to sell water in one of our areas, we encourage it, but we encourage you to do it safely, so, but a lot of these laws are coming down, they're state laws, and we just have to conform with them, so Mr. Anderson already stated a lot of this is education, and when they go out there educating the public on this, because I know I've seen some out there in some dangerous areas. Nonetheless, some, the majority of them, they do a good job of cleaning up after themselves, and especially our fruit stands. Our people love those, and if we could put those in places where people are safe, or if there's a designated location in those areas, I support that as well. So I don't have any further comments on that. So do we need a motion on this, or just a waive the reading?
Yes, we need the motion that's listed on the recommendation.
Okay, well, I will enter the motion.
I'll run through it. I'm excited about it. I'll run through it. I'll make the motion to waive full reading ordinance number 1767, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Indio, amending chapter 114, vending by push cart or vending vehicle, and chapter 117, solicitation, to clarify existing regulations and regulate sidewalk vendors pursuant to Senate Bill 946, introduced the ordinance by title only, and request the city clerk to read the title.
I'll second that.
I'm gonna second it.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Miller and a second by Councilmember Holmes. Can I get a vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Miller.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos Amit.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz.
Aye.
And Mayor Furman.
Aye.
And then for the record, I'd like to read the title of the ordinance, ordinance number 1767. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Indio, amending chapter 114, vending by push cart or vending vehicle, and chapter 117, solicitation of the Indio Municipal Code to clarify existing regulations and regulate sidewalk vendors pursuant to Senate Bill 946.
Great, thank you. The Motion passes. And that will complete our administrative items. So we'll move on to public comments for items not on the agenda. And I believe I have two, and one is present, and that would be Celeste Feeler. Well, Ms. Feeler, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so this is my first time ever attending a city meeting. So some of you have seen my face and some of you have not. I didn't know who would show up or who was going to be in this room. So I'm not sure where to even point the podium at you, Chief Washburn, or at the city council, the mayor. I emailed all of you requesting that confirmation that you had received my email regarding public safety. Only RTs got back to me while the rest of you forwarded it over to, I believe you, Chief. It was like, to me, it's like no big deal. So I'm here today because I want to read out loud my email so that way to make sure that you guys heard it. My name is Celeste. I am a resident here. I have been for 15 years in the city of Indio. I'm a mom to 5. And I have some concerns here that need to be addressed immediately regarding safety. If I were to grade this city about 10 years ago, I probably would have given it about a B or an A for as far as public safety. Today, I give it an F. I have concerns that we have more crime than ever. Here we are discussing building parks and, all this development happening here in Indio when we can't even use them with our families because they're filled with crime, graffiti, homeless. They're just not safe. It's a waste of money to me right now. Eventually, hopefully not. Council, when you ran for your seat, public safety was part of your pitch to the public. Well, now it feels like you've ditched us. I have been doing some research about how Indio is being ran. I see that you are more focused on the parks when the residents myself can't even enjoy them. This weekend is the Tamale Festival. Did you know that not every resident goes to the Tamale Festival? That some of them just don't go, right? Because 1, because of safety, and 2, they just don't take part in it. But we deserve the same protection in our community when it comes to that. So I'm wondering, Washburn, how many officers are you going to have there versus in the street? Because we don't see any now. And unfortunately, I only have 25 seconds to talk, but I'm encouraging you to put on the agenda regarding the safety in the community. Because when I did my own survey here with about 500 residents, the things that I've gotten back were the same concerns that I have, that we're not impressed. So if you can please, we're urging you to put that on the agenda, the safety, so we can bring in the community members and talk about this. Thank you. Sorry, my time is up, but I have a whole list if you want to meet with me.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller, for your comments.
Mayor, we do have some information that I think that it might be important for the chief to relay. There must be some miscommunication or misunderstanding of some of the facts and the data. So I did ask the chief, if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, just a couple of quick minutes. It might be important for the record.
Absolutely.
Sure. So we constantly report out our stats. So through October of 2021, so year to date, we're compared to 2020, we're up 1% in property crimes, down 12% in violent crimes, total down 4% from last year. If you look at so last year was a pandemic, so we always want to look at the 5-year average as well, which gives us a better reflection of are we up or down. So at the 5-year average, violent crimes are down 25%. Property crimes are down 40% for total reduction of 38% off of our 5-year average. We do expect a little rebound next year. We also didn't have our concerts, so although we don't have the violent crime issues there, our thefts will certainly rebound. In terms of council support and public safety, since my arrival a little over 5 years ago, city council's added 17 budgeted positions to the PD. For the first time ever, we actually have a dedicated overtime budget, and council's dedicated millions of dollars to equipment, training, overtime, and facilities. The short-term rental issues are being addressed with our new ordinance, which we just had the second reading tonight. And in terms of staffing, we are one of the lower staffed police departments. We have as many as we can afford. We do have some significant gaps right now. The entire country's experiencing police staffing crisis, to include our friends throughout the valley. We have a plan and exceptional track record of bringing on new people. Last July, I presented a Chief's Commendation to Sergeant Jeremy Hellowell for bringing on 38 new hires to the PD in just the last 2 years. So I'd be happy to meet and discuss those things. Traffic is a big issue. We're rebuilding our traffic team, but it requires bodies.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your comments, Chief. And like he said, he's willing to meet with you. And so we'll move on to comment on Zoom. Ms. Sanchez, we have?
Yes, we have Ciric Nieto. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. Nieto, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, would like to thank you, Mr. Mayor Wayman Furman, on being this year's Mayor of Indio. And I would like to just say, I totally agree with the last speaker. Public safety is our #1 thing that we're doubting in Indio. It's been like this for the last 15 years that I witnessed. I say we bring this up for discussion in the next meeting because it's one of the biggest priorities that we need in the city. And everybody on the council, like she says, nobody got back to you but Oscar. And that's wrong. That is wrong. For all you guys to sit up there and just look at her and just say, oh, wow, let's forward it to the attorney, let's forward the chief. That's wrong. We voted for you guys and you guys are disappointing me. We need to bring it up on the next meeting up for discussion with all you guys. Thank you. And don't forget, come out to the Tamale Festival this weekend, downtown Indio. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Nieto. Ms. Sanchez, do we have any more comments?
I have no comments, Mayor.
Sure.
We have, yes, sir.
I think you left already.
Yeah.
Mayor, City Council, Chief of Police. About 4 weeks ago, before I leave, I was having some kids destroying the plants in my place and Mesa drive-through there. And I called the police. I was there for a whole hour. Nobody showed up. I called back. They told me they were real busy, and I understand we may be real busy. And I was with you, Elaine, the last time we were talking about it. And you know, you told me that we have a private police going around the places. And I sat in my place there. I go clean up and sat in my place for 2-3 hours. In fact, before I left, I was there for 2 hours. 2 hours and a half, and I go the next day to you over there. And I sat down right there. I never see anybody patrolling the area or anything else. What really pissed me off, the 2 days after that, 2 days before I left, I was going to Coachella, driving to Coachella. About 7 police units passed me to go to the new Tower Market or whatever in the corner where used to be Trocadero one time ago when I was young. 7 units with 7 policemen. And I figure, well, maybe somebody got killed. Somebody, it really got to be something really bad for that to have 7 units pulled right there. So, you know, I'm always been a SOB. since I've been in the city of Indio since I was a little kid, and I've always been a pain in the ass with you guys. And it really upset me, but it wasn't city council going, and I didn't have a chance to go and talk to the police chief. And and I adore Indio police. I've been all the time back and forth in Indio. I live all my life, and I know see every policeman since all my life. So that really pissed me off. And I figure we have priorities at the new stores, AM, PM, and them, they got a priority over the people who've been in business for 50 years here, because they just come. For in the last 10 years, they've been showing up. And I've been here, 73 years, all my goddamn life. So, and I gotta agree with it. And I know it's not your fault, chief, or anything else, but we don't have the safety. Maybe because we grew up too fast, the city grew up too fast, or whatever you want, but we don't have the same priorities and the same safety that we had when I was growing up and when I was going in business. And that is, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just telling you what is happened to me, and that I always do. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry. I'm not agreeing with anybody, I'm just telling you what happened to me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mesa. I do have one comment, a slip, but I'm not sure if he's here. I'll just say his name just in case he's outside. Mr. Jeffrey Smith. So I don't see him here. Is he? He left? Okay. And so that would conclude our public comments for items not on the agenda. So we'll move to adjourn the meeting. The next council meeting will be December 15th, be a joint council meeting on IWA, December 15th, 2021. It is 7:38 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.